"Stop staring at the fat girl." The words rang through the trading post, sharp enough to cut through the stink of whiskey and sweat. A few men laughed. Others turned openly, no longer pretending discretion. Lily Brennan stood beside the counter at Copper Bend, her carpetbag resting against her thick ankle, her hands clenched so tightly her nails cut into her palms. She was 19 years old and already knew the sound of her own humiliation. Her stepfather, Jeremiah Tate, stood across from the merchant, one hand resting casually on the counter, the other hooked into his belt as though he were discussing a mule or a sack of grain. "She's strong," Jeremiah said. "Good worker, knows how to cook, sew, scrub, built heavy, but that just means she lasts." The merchant squinted at Lily with open disdain. "Heavy is one word for it. She's near 270 if she's an ounce." 272, Jeremiah corrected, without looking at her. "But she doesn't eat much. I'm asking $100. That's fair." A trapper, leaning near the stove, snorted. "100? For that?" Laughter rippled outward. Lily lowered her gaze to the floorboards, polished smooth by decades of boots. She had learned early that looking up only invited cruelty. Since her mother's death, she had become an inconvenience, then a burden, and finally, today, a commodity. The merchant spat into a tin. 35, that's my offer." Jeremiah hesitated, not out of concern for Lily, but for pride. 40, 35, Jeremiah sighed. "Done." Something inside Lily went quiet. The merchant reached for his cash box. The door slammed open. Cold air rushed in, carrying the smell of pine and iron. A man stood framed in the doorway, too large for it, as if the building itself had underestimated him. He was wrapped in bear skin and leather, an axe slung casually in one massive hand. His hair fell loose past his shoulders, his beard dark and untrimmed, his eyes the pale gray of an oncoming storm. Silence swallowed the room. The man's gaze swept across the crowd and stopped on Lily. He stared, not with hunger, not with mockery, with focus, with something unreadable and dangerous. He crossed the room in 3 long strides and slammed a leather pouch onto the counter. Gold spilled out, clinking loudly in the hush. "How much for the girl?" he asked. Jeremiah straightened. "Sir, I asked how much." $100, Jeremiah said quickly. The man counted the coins without haste. Exactly 100. He pushed them forward. "She's mine." The merchant opened his mouth, then closed it again. The trapper by the stove shifted uneasily. Jeremiah grabbed the gold as if afraid it might vanish and backed away without a word. The man turned to Lily. "You got a name?" "Lily Brennan," she said, her voice barely steady. "I'm Rowan Blackthorne," he replied. "You're coming with me." He picked up her carpetbag as though it weighed nothing and turned toward the door. Behind them, someone muttered, "Poor bastard! Paid full price for damaged goods." Rowan stopped. He turned slowly, axe still in his hand. "Say that again." No one did. Rowan's eyes swept the room. "Anyone else got something to say about what's mine?" The silence answered him. He nodded once and walked out. Lily followed, heart pounding, not daring to look back. It is easy to laugh with the crowd, but it takes a warrior's heart to stand alone against it. Ask yourself, in that moment of public cruelty, would you have stayed silent, or would you have been the one willing to step forward? Before we continue, let me ask you, where are you listening from today? And if this story touches you, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs it. Now, let's get back to the story. They left Copper Bend without looking back. Snow lingered in dirty patches along the road, trampled into gray slush by wagons and boots. The farther they walked, the quieter the world became. The laughter, the stares, the smell of whiskey, all of it fell away behind them like a bad dream. Rowan did not speak for a long time. Lily struggled to keep pace. Her boots were worn thin, her thighs rubbed raw with every step, and the carpetbag bit into her fingers. Still, she said nothing. Silence, she had learned, was safer than complaint. After a mile, Rowan slowed. "You're limping." "I'm fine," Lily said automatically. He stopped, not abruptly, not angrily. He simply stopped walking, as if the mountain itself had decided there would be no more forward motion until something changed. "You don't have to pretend with me," he said. Lily swallowed. "I don't want to be trouble." Rowan turned fully toward her. Up close he was even larger, scarred knuckles, weather-cracked skin, eyes sharp with a life spent watching for danger. "You already paid enough for being quiet," he said. Before she could react, he crouched and turned his back to her. "Get on!" Her breath caught. "What? I'm not asking twice." "I'm too heavy," she whispered. "You'll hurt yourself." He glanced back over his shoulder. "I carry elk heavier than you. Climb on." Her face burned as she hesitated, then carefully wrapped her arms around his neck. He rose smoothly, as if lifting her cost him nothing at all. Lily gasped, "Rowan, hold tight." They continued up the trail, her weight settled securely against his back. The rhythm of his steps was steady and sure. His body radiated heat through the cold air. No man had ever carried her before. The realization struck her harder than the mountain wind. "Why did you buy me?" she asked quietly, her mouth near his ear. Rowan did not answer at once. The forest closed in around them, pine and shadow, the trail narrowing to a ribbon of packed earth. Somewhere above, snow slid from a branch with a soft hush. "Because no one should be sold like that," he said finally. "That's not all." He exhaled slowly. "No, it isn't." He walked for another dozen steps before speaking again. "I was sold once," he said. "Not for money, for labor. Men traded me like equipment." His voice stayed level, but something tight lived beneath it. "I learned early what it does to a person, being told they're worth less than the work they can produce." Lily's arms tightened around him without thinking. "When I saw you standing there," he continued, "head down, pretending you weren't there, I recognized it." Her throat closed. "I didn't cry. I noticed. I didn't want them to see." "They already did," Rowan said. "You just didn't give them the satisfaction." They walked in silence after that. The higher they climbed, the colder the air became. The trail grew rougher, snow thickening in the shadows. Lily's face rested against Rowan's shoulder, warmed by the steady rise and fall of his breath. She should have been afraid. She knew that. A stranger, an isolated mountain, no witnesses. Instead, she felt something unfamiliar settle into her bones. Safety? "You might hate it where we're going," Rowan said at last. "No neighbors, hard winters, long days." "I won't," she replied without hesitation. "You don't know that." "I know I don't want to go back." His grip tightened slightly around her legs, not possessive, protective. "Then you're headed the right direction." Above them, the mountain rose silent and waiting. Sometimes the journey itself reveals the truth we are too afraid to admit. That danger does not always wear the face we expect, and safety is not always gentle when it arrives. The cabin emerged from the trees like something grown rather than built. It sat half buried into the mountainside, logs darkened by age and weather, the roof pitched steep to shed snow. Smoke rose thin and steady from a stone chimney, proof of recent life. Ancient pines stood guard around it, their branches heavy with silence. Rowan stopped at the edge of the clearing and lowered Lily to her feet. "We're here." Lily stood still, waiting for fear to arrive. It didn't. The place was rough, yes, but solid. The kind of solid that did not apologize for existing. Inside, the cabin was warmer than she expected. A broad hearth dominated the far wall, coals still glowing beneath a layer of ash. Furs covered the floor. Shelves lined the walls, stacked with jars of dried berries, beans, smoked meat. Tools laid out with care. A table stood near the fire, scarred but clean. 2 rooms. Rowan set her carpet bag down near the smaller one. "You'll take that room?" he said. "I sleep out here." Lily blinked. "That's your bed." He shrugged. "I don't need much." He turned away before she could argue and knelt to stir the fire, coaxing flame back into the coals. The light caught the scars on his forearms, old pale lines that spoke of knives and chains and years best left unspoken. "You hungry?" he asked. Her stomach answered for her. "Yes." "Good." He moved with quiet efficiency, pulling down a pot, adding water, cutting venison with practiced hands. Lily watched, unsure what to do with herself. In Copper Bend, she had been expected to work the moment she arrived anywhere. Here, no one told her to hurry. Within an hour, the cabin filled with the smell of stew. Meat, roots, herbs she couldn't name. Rowan ladled a bowl and set it in front of her. It was full, generous. "Eat." She did. The first spoonful burned her tongue, but she didn't stop. The second warmed her chest. By the third, her hands were shaking, not from hunger anymore, but from something loosening inside her. When she finished, Rowan refilled her bowl without comment. Tears slipped down her cheeks before she realized they were there. Rowan noticed. He did not ask why. "Get some rest," he said quietly. "Tomorrow we'll talk about what you want to do, what you want." He left her alone in the small room, closing the door gently behind him. Lily sat on the edge of the bed, an actual bed, and pressed her palm to her chest. No shouting, no bargaining, no price attached to her existence. For the first time since her mother died, she felt something dangerous bloom in her ribs. Hope. Sometimes kindness arrives not as a promise, but as a simple, radical act. Food without conditions, shelter without threat, and the quiet acknowledgement that you matter simply because you are alive. A week passed, marked by small, careful routines. Lily learned the cabin the way one learns a new language, slowly, respectfully. She swept the hearth each morning, hung Rowan's damp clothes near the fire, cooked when he brought back game. In the afternoons, she mended torn seams or washed linens in the stream where the water ran so cold it burned. Rowan never hovered, never corrected her. When she struggled lifting a bucket, he didn't take it from her hands. "Shift your weight," he said instead. "Let your legs do the work." It did. Each evening he returned from his trap lines before dark. They ate together by the fire, sometimes talking, sometimes not. Silence with him did not feel like punishment. It felt earned. One night, snow fell soft and steady outside the window. Rowan sharpened a blade while Lily stitched a tear in his coat. "You don't have to fix my things," he said. "I want to," she replied. He nodded, accepting that without question. That was when the knock came. Rowan froze. "Stay here," he said quietly. He opened the door to reveal a man Lily had never seen before. Lean, sharp-eyed, with a mouth that smiled without warmth. A trapper, judging by the pelt slung over his shoulder and the way his gaze took inventory of everything. "Well, I'll be damned," the man said. "Didn't think you'd gone domestic, Blackthorne." "Decker," Rowan replied flatly. "What do you want?" "Just passing through." Decker's eyes slid past Rowan, landing on Lily as she stepped into view. They lingered, slow, assessing, unapologetic. Lily felt the old instinct rise. Lower your eyes, make yourself small. Before she could, Rowan shifted. "She's under my protection," he said. Decker chuckled. "Didn't mean offense, just surprised. Big girl like that, tucked away up here." His smile sharpened. "If you ever tire of her, I'd pay good coin. Plenty of men like something solid to grab." Rowan moved. The sound of his fist connecting with Decker's face cracked through the clearing. Decker staggered back, blood already running from his nose. Rowan seized him by the throat and drove him against a tree, axe raised just enough to make the threat unmistakable. "You don't speak about her," Rowan said, voice low and feral. "You don't look at her. You don't think about her." Decker gagged, nodding frantically. "Go," Rowan said, "and if you ever come back, I'll make sure you don't leave." He released him. Decker fled into the trees, stumbling, fear finally overtaking bravado. Rowan stood rigid, breath heavy, hands shaking with restraint. When he turned back to Lily, something in his expression softened, concern edging out fury. "I'm sorry," he said. "I shouldn't have—" "Don't," Lily said. Her voice surprised them both. "Thank you," she continued, steady now. "No one's ever stood up for me before." Rowan searched her face. "I should have kept you inside." "You did exactly what you needed to do." The firelight from the open door painted them both in gold and shadow. For a moment, neither moved. That night, Lily lay awake long after Rowan settled near the hearth. Her heart raced, not from fear, but from the dangerous realization forming in her chest. He hadn't protected her because she was weak. He'd protected her because she mattered. Sometimes strength reveals itself not in silence, but in the line a person draws and refuses to let anyone cross. The mountain winter settled in fully after Decker's visit, sealing the world beyond the cabin in snow and silence. Days shortened, nights pressed closer. The cabin became not just shelter, but a boundary against everything that had once hurt them both. It was during one of those long evenings that Lily finally asked the question she had been carrying. "Rowan," she said, fingers worrying a loose thread in her skirt, "what happened to you before the mountain?" He did not answer at once. The fire popped softly, sending sparks up the chimney. "At first," he said, "I thought disappearing would fix me." She waited. "I was 12 when they took me," he continued. "A raiding party hit our settlement. My parents were killed. I was sold to a mining outfit. No name, just numbers and quotas." His jaw tightened. "I learned to survive by becoming useful, strong, quiet." Lily felt the echo of her own life in his words. "When I escaped, I came here," he said. "Figured the mountain didn't care who I was or what I'd been." She reached for his hand without thinking. He stiffened, then let her take it. "You're not what they did to you," she said. He looked at her, eyes dark. "Neither are you." The silence that followed was different from all the others. It leaned in instead of pulling away. That night, Lily gathered her courage. "Will you let me cut your hair?" she asked. Rowan blinked. Why? Because I want to see you, she said simply. He studied her face, then nodded. All right. She worked slowly, carefully, trimming away the worst tangles, shaping the beard with hands that still trembled. When she finished, Rowan rose and caught sight of himself in the small mirror by the door. He barely recognized the man staring back. Looks like I've been hiding, he said quietly. Not anymore. His gaze lingered on her. Your turn. She hesitated, then sat as he stood behind her, combing her hair with surprising gentleness. You don't have to hide either, he murmured. Not here. Her breath caught. His hands were steady, respectful, close enough to feel his warmth, but never crossing the line she hadn't invited him to cross. Trust, she realized, was not the absence of desire. It was desire held carefully. Later, lying awake in her bed, Lily understood the truth she had been avoiding. She wasn't just safe here, she was wanted. And that knowledge, more than the cold, more than the mountain, terrified her, because to be wanted meant something could be taken away. We all believe we are brave until closeness demands more than endurance. If you have learned to survive by expecting nothing, what happens when someone offers you everything? The knock came just after dawn. It was not polite. It was not hesitant. It struck the cabin door like a claim being laid. Rowan was on his feet instantly, axe in hand, body already positioned between the door and Lily. She stood frozen near the table, her breath shallow, the old instinct whispering to hide. Stay back, Rowan said softly. Not a command, a promise. He opened the door. Jeremiah Tate stood on the threshold, thinner than Lily remembered, eyes sharp with a hunger that had never learned restraint. 2 hired men flanked him, rifles slung low but ready. Well, Jeremiah said, smiling as if greeting old friends. There you are, girl. Rowan stepped fully into view. You don't speak to my wife. Jeremiah laughed. Wife? That's rich. His gaze slid past Rowan, pinning Lily. She's still my responsibility. Not yet 21. And that little transaction in Copper Bend? He shrugged. Under duress. Illegal? Lily felt the words like a hand closing around her throat. Rowan did not move. You sold her? I leased her, Jeremiah replied calmly. Labor, protection. That's how the law sees it. Rowan's grip tightened on the axe. Lily could feel the violence in him, coiled and waiting. She stepped forward before he could move. No, she said. All eyes turned to her. No more, Lily continued, voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. You don't own me. You never did. Jeremiah's smile hardened. Careful, girl. I was careful my whole life, she said. Careful not to take up space. Careful not to make you angry. Careful not to hope. She lifted her chin. I'm done being careful for you. One of the hired men shifted uneasily. Rowan glanced at Lily, question in his eyes. She nodded once. Jeremiah scoffed. You think words change facts? I can take this to court. I can ruin you. You already tried, Lily said, and you failed. Rowan spoke then, his voice low and final. Leave, now. Jeremiah's gaze flicked to the axe, then to Lily, calculating. I'll take my payment, he said. Triple what you paid, or I make this everyone's problem. Rowan did not answer. Lily stepped forward again, placing herself beside him. You'll take nothing, she said. You got your money, and you lost your power the day I stopped being afraid of you. For a long moment, the mountain held its breath. Jeremiah's eyes darted, Rowan's sighs, Lily's resolve, the isolation of the place. He saw finally that this was no longer a girl he could break. He spat into the snow. "This isn't over?" "Yes," Lily said quietly. "It is." Jeremiah turned away. The hired men followed, their boots crunching into the trees. Rowan exhaled slowly, as if releasing something that had lived in him for years. He turned to Lily. "You didn't have to stand there," he said. "I wanted to," she replied. "I chose to." He pulled her into his arms, not crushing, not desperate, steady, certain. True strength isn't about violence. It's about standing between the monster and the one you love and trusting them to stand with you. Jeremiah Tate did not return. That, in itself, felt unnatural. Winter loosened its grip inch by inch. Snow receded from the lower slopes, revealing dark earth and stubborn green shoots pushing through the thaw. Life resumed its quiet insistence. But the memory of Jeremiah's boots in the snow lingered like a bruise that had not yet faded. Lily felt it most at night. She would wake to the sound of the wind and expect to hear his voice sharp and claiming. Each time, Rowan was there, awake more often than he admitted, sitting near the hearth, watching the door as if daring the past to try again. They spoke of it only once. "He won't stop wanting what he thinks is his," Rowan said. "I know," Lily replied. She surprised herself with how calm her voice sounded. "But I won't stop being who I am," she added, "and I won't go back." Rowan looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Then neither will I." Spring brought work. Rowan expanded the cabin, adding a second window and reinforcing the roof. Lily planted a small garden near the southern wall where the sun lingered longest. She learned the soil the way she had learned the cabin, patiently, without apology. In town, whispers followed them. Some said Rowan Blackthorne had gone soft. Others said he had gone mad, taking in a girl no one else wanted and daring the world to object. Neither rumor mattered. One evening, as the light drained gold from the valley, Rowan set down his tools and wiped his hands on his trousers. "You're safe here," he said. Lily looked up from the hearth. "I know. I mean it," he continued, "not because I bought you, not because I protected you, because you chose to stay, and because I chose you." Her chest tightened. "Home isn't something I ever thought I'd have," she admitted. "Not really?" Rowan crossed the room and stood beside her. "Home isn't a place on a map," he said. "It's the person who doesn't ask you to be smaller, so they can feel bigger." She leaned into him, fitting as if the shape of her had always belonged there. Outside, the mountain stood indifferent and eternal. It would test them again some day. She knew that. Storms always returned in one form or another. But when the darkness came, the cabin glowed warm against it. And for the first time in her life, Lily Brennan did not fear what tomorrow might demand of her, because she was no longer alone on the road ahead. Some stories are not about rescue. They are about recognition, about the moment someone looks at you fully without bargaining and decides you are not a problem to be solved, but a life to be honored. Lily did not become strong because Rowan protected her. She became strong because someone finally treated her strength as real. If you have ever been weighed, priced, dismissed, or told to be smaller so others could feel comfortable, remember this. The world is loud with judgment, but love is quiet and precise. It finds you where you stand and says simply, "Stay." And when two people choose each other against the noise, against the past, against the cold, that choice becomes a home no one can take.